Katie Walsh wiped the sweat from her forehead as she finished checking the last row of corn plants. The twin suns of New Terra were setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. At 16, she had been working at the Agricultural Research Station for 2 years now, and she loved the peaceful routine of colony life. The research station sat on the edge of Millfield Colony, home to about 3,000 humans who had come to this distant world seeking a simple life. Katie's father, Jake Walsh, ran a small shipping company that transported goods between the outer colonies. He was quiet and kept to himself, but everyone respected him as a hard worker and good neighbor. Katie, time to head home, called Dr. Helen Brooks, the station administrator. Your father will worry if you're late again. Katie smiled and gathered her tools. Her father did worry a lot, she thought. Sometimes it seemed like too much. He had taught her things that other colonist children never learned: how to move silently through tall grass, how to read the signs of danger in a person's eyes, how to find food and water in the wilderness. When she asked why these skills mattered on a peaceful farming world, he always said the same thing: hope for the best, prepare for the worst. As Katie walked toward the colony's main settlement, she noticed something strange in the evening sky. Small dots of light were moving against the stars, growing larger by the minute. Ships were approaching New Terra, but they weren't using the normal landing patterns that cargo vessels followed. A chill ran down Katie's spine. Something felt wrong. The ships descended rapidly, their sleek black holes unlike anything in the human fleet. Katie had seen pictures of different alien species in her school books, but these vessels looked aggressive and dangerous. Red lights pulsed along their sides like angry eyes. Suddenly, the peaceful evening exploded into chaos. Energy beams lanced down from the alien ships, striking the colony's communication tower and power station. Emergency sirens began wailing as people ran from their homes in panic. "Raiders!" someone screamed. "Zephyrian raiders." Katie had heard stories about the Zephyrians, a cruel alien species that attacked human colonies to capture slaves for their empire's work camps. But New Terra was supposed to be too far from their territory, too small and unimportant to bother with. She ran toward the main square where colonists were gathering, looking for Helen Brooks or any other adult who might know what to do. The alien ships landed with thunderous crashes, and armored figures began pouring out. The Zephyrians were tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms that ended in sharp claws. They moved with deadly grace, their weapons crackling with blue energy. Take the young ones first. One of the aliens commanded in accented English. They adapt better to slavery. Katie tried to reach the emergency bunker, but a group of Zephyrians blocked her path. She turned to run in the other direction, but more aliens appeared from behind the burning buildings. She was trapped. "This one looks healthy," said a Zephyrian soldier, pointing at Katie with one of its weapons. "Commander Vextar will be pleased." 2 aliens grabbed Katie's arms with their powerful claws. She struggled, but they were much stronger than any human. As they dragged her toward their ship, she saw other colonists being captured, mostly teenagers and young adults who could work hard in the alien mines and factories. "Let me go," Katie shouted, fighting against their grip. "My father will come for me." The aliens laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Your father is just another weak human farmer," one of them said. "He will never find you where we are going." They threw Katie into a dark holding cell aboard their ship. The metal walls were covered with strange symbols, and the air smelled of chemicals and fear. Other captured humans were already there, some crying, others sitting in shocked silence. "Are you hurt?" asked a woman named Lisa Martinez, who Katie recognized as a teacher from the colony school. "I'm okay," Katie said, though her arms ached where the aliens had grabbed her. "Do you know where they're taking us?" "The slave markets," Lisa whispered. "I've heard stories. Once we leave New Terra, no one will ever see us again." Katie felt fear trying to overwhelm her, but something inside her fought back. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. "Fear is just information. Use it, don't let it use you." She had never understood what he meant before, but now the words made perfect sense. She began studying the cell, looking for weaknesses. The lock was electronic, but the walls had small gaps where different metal plates joined together. The ceiling had a ventilation grate that might be large enough for a person to crawl through. Most importantly, she noticed that the guards outside changed positions every 20 minutes. Why was she noticing these things? Other people her age would be too scared to think clearly, but Katie felt her mind becoming sharper and more focused. It was as if all those strange lessons from her father were finally making sense. Meanwhile, back on New Terra, Jake Walsh stood in the smoking ruins of the colony's communication center. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes were cold as winter storms. Helen Brooks had never seen him look like this before, dangerous and deadly in a way that made her step back involuntarily. "How many ships?" Jake asked quietly. 5 Zephyrian raiders," Helen replied. "They took about 30 people, including your daughter." "Jake, I'm so sorry." Jake's expression didn't change, but something shifted in the way he stood. The mild-mannered shipping company owner was gone, replaced by someone Helen didn't recognize. "Send a message to Colonial Command," Jake said. "Tell them New Terra was attacked, but don't mention my name or Katie's." "What are you going to do?" Helen asked. Jake turned and walked toward his ship without answering. Helen watched him go, wondering why she suddenly felt sorry for the aliens who had taken Katie Walsh. Something told her they had made a terrible mistake. High above New Terra, the Zephyrian ships jumped into hyperspace, carrying their human cargo toward the slave market to the Nexus. Commander Vextar was pleased with the raid. 30 healthy humans would bring a good price. He had no idea that one of his prisoners was the daughter of the most dangerous human in the galaxy. The hunt was about to begin. The Zephyrian ship traveled through hyperspace for 3 days before dropping back into normal space near a refueling station. Katie had spent those days watching, learning, and planning. The other human prisoners looked to her for hope, though she wasn't sure why. Maybe it was because she seemed calmer than the rest, or maybe they sensed something different about her. "They're going to separate us soon," whispered Tony Rodriguez, a mechanic from New Terra. "I heard the guards talking. Young humans go to the work camps. Older ones go to the mines." Katie nodded but didn't reply. She was counting the seconds between guard patrols and memorizing the sound patterns of the ship's engines. Her father had once told her that ships were like living creatures. They had rhythms and habits that could be understood if you listened carefully. The cell door opened with a harsh buzz, and 2 Zephyrian guards entered. One of them, a large soldier with scars across his gray face, pointed at Katie. "You, come." Katie stood slowly, her muscles tense and ready. The scarred guard reached for her arm, but something inside her mind clicked into place. Without thinking, she grabbed his wrist and twisted it in a way that made him howl in pain. His weapon clattered to the floor. The second guard raised his energy rifle, but Katie was already moving. She ducked under his aim and swept his legs, sending him crashing into the cell wall. In less than 5 seconds, both Zephyrians were on the ground, groaning in pain. The other human prisoner stared at Katie in amazement. She stared too, shocked by what she had just done. Where had those moves come from? She had never fought anyone in her life, yet her body had moved with deadly precision. "How did you do that?" asked Lisa Martinez. "I don't know," Katie said honestly. "It just happened." More guards arrived, their weapons trained on Katie. She raised her hands in surrender, knowing she couldn't fight all of them. But she saw something new in their eyes now, respect mixed with fear. They had underestimated her once. They wouldn't make that mistake again. Commander Vextar arrived a few minutes later. He was taller than the other Zephyrians, with silver armor and 4 ceremonial scars on his forehead that marked him as a veteran warrior. "So," he said, studying Katie with his large black eyes, "the little human has claws after all. Interesting." She broke Sergeant Kex's wrist, reported one of the guards, and knocked out Private Ziff. Vextar walked around Katie in a slow circle, like a predator examining prey. "What is your name, human?" "Katie Walsh." "And what does your father do on New Terra, Katie Walsh?" "He runs a shipping company." Vextar made a sound that might have been laughter. "A merchant's daughter who fights like a trained warrior? How curious." He turned to his guards. "Put her in isolation, and double the security on this section." They dragged Katie to a smaller cell away from the other prisoners. As the door sealed shut, she heard Vextar talking to his officers in the corridor. "Run a scan on all human databases," he ordered. "I want to know everything about this girl and her family." "Sir, she's just a colonist." "What could be important about a colonist who disabled 2 of my best soldiers in seconds?" Vextar's voice was sharp. "No, there's more to this human than meets the eye. Find out what it is." Alone in her new cell, Katie sat on the cold metal floor and tried to understand what was happening to her. The fighting techniques had felt familiar, as if she had practiced them thousands of times. But when? Her father had taught her self-defense. But those had been simple moves designed to help her escape from danger, not military combat skills. She closed her eyes and tried to remember her training sessions with her father. They had always seemed like games, races through the forest, puzzles to solve under pressure, exercises that built strength and speed. But now she realized they had been much more than games. Every lesson had been designed to turn her into a weapon. But why? Her father was just a shipping company owner on a peaceful colony world, wasn't he? 3,000 light years away, Jake Walsh stood in the hidden armory beneath his modest house on New Terra. The walls were lined with weapons that no civilian should possess, military-grade assault rifles, alien energy weapons, explosives that could level buildings. In the center of the room sat a communication console that connected to networks the colonial government didn't even know existed. Jake's fingers moved across the controls with practiced ease, entering codes he hadn't used in 16 years. One by one, faces appeared on the screen, men and women scattered across the galaxy, all of them waiting for a call they had hoped would never come. "Ghost Protocol is active," Jake said simply. "I need the team." Colonel Lisa Martinez was the first to respond. She looked older than when Jake had last seen her, with gray streaks in her dark hair and new lines around her eyes. But her voice was still steady and strong. "Jake, is that really you? I thought you were dead." "I was." For 16 years, Jake Walsh, the shipping company owner, has lived a quiet life on New Terra. But the ghost is back. The other faces on the screen showed similar reactions: surprise, concern, and something that looked like relief. These were the members of Jake's old unit, the team that had once been the most feared human military force in the galaxy. "What's the situation?" asked Amy Chun, a woman with short black hair and pilot's insignia on her uniform. "Zephyrian raiders took my daughter." The silence that followed was heavy with understanding. Everyone on the team knew that Jake had retired to protect his family. If he was calling them back together, it meant the peace he had built was already broken. "They don't know who she is," Jake continued. "To them, Katie is just another colonist's daughter. But they're about to learn the truth." Dr. Susan Clark, a xenobiologist who specialized in alien weaknesses, leaned forward on her screen. "Jake, if you come out of hiding now, every enemy you ever made will know you're alive. They'll come for both of you." "Let them come," Jake said quietly. The ghost has been sleeping for 16 years. But he's awake now, and he remembers why the galaxy used to fear him. Tony Rodriguez, the team's infiltration specialist, was already checking his equipment. "Where do we meet?" "Orbital Station 7, in 48 hours. Come armed and ready for war." One by one, the screens went dark as Jake's old teammates signed off to prepare for battle. Only Lisa Martinez remained. "Jake, are you sure about this? Once we start down this path, there's no going back to your quiet life." Jake looked at a photo on his desk. Katie's smiling as she held up a prize-winning vegetable from the research station. She looked so young and innocent, but he knew better. She was his daughter, and that meant she carried the same deadly instincts that had made him the most dangerous human alive. "My daughter is out there alone, surrounded by enemies who see her as property to be sold," Jake said. "They think they captured a helpless farm girl. Soon they'll learn they took the daughter of the ghost. And then they'll understand a mistake they've made." Lisa nodded slowly. "We'll bring her home, Jake. I promise." "No," Jake said, his voice cold as space itself. "We'll do more than that. We're going to remind the galaxy why they should never touch a human's family." The screen went dark, leaving Jake alone with his weapons and his memories. The ghost was coming back to life, and the galaxy would tremble at his return. Orbital Station 7 floated in empty space between star systems, a neutral meeting point used by smugglers and mercenaries. Jake Walsh arrived first, his cargo ship docking at Pier 12 just as he had countless times during his previous life. But this time was different. This time, he wasn't hiding who he really was. Amy Chen's ship arrived an hour later, followed by Tony Rodriguez and Dr. Susan Clark. They met in a private room Jake had rented, far from curious eyes and recording devices. When they saw him, they knew immediately that the quiet colonist was gone forever. The ghost stood before them, lean, dangerous, and absolutely focused on his mission. Status report, Jake said without any greeting. Lisa Martinez activated a holographic display, showing star charts and ship movements. The Zephyrians are heading for the Nexus, a massive slave processing station in the Krell sector. It's heavily defended and operates outside any government's jurisdiction. How heavily? Asked Amy. 50 defensive platforms, constant fighter patrols, and over 2,000 Zephyrian soldiers, Susan replied, reading from her data pad, plus whatever other alien species are working with them. Tony whistled low. That's more firepower than some planetary defense systems. It doesn't matter, Jake said calmly. We're going in. Jake, I know you want to save Katie, but this is suicide, Lisa protested. Even with all our skills, we can't fight an entire battle station. Jake smiled for the first time since the meeting began, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. We won't fight the entire station. We'll do what humans do best. We'll be unpredictable. He touched a control on the wall, and the room's lights dimmed. Outside the window, Jake's cargo ship began to transform. Hidden panels slid away to reveal weapon turrets, shield generators, and sensor arrays that belonged on a military cruiser. The boring shipping vessel was actually one of the most advanced warships in human space. You kept the Shadow Runner? Amy asked in amazement. I kept everything, Jake replied. Weapons, contacts, safe houses, all of it. I told myself it was just in case, but deep down I knew this day would come. Meanwhile, aboard the Zephyrian ship approaching the Nexus, Katie was putting her own plan into motion. She had spent days studying the ship's systems through small gaps in her cell walls, and now she understood how everything worked. More importantly, she had made contact with the other human prisoners. The ventilation system connects all the holding cells, she whispered to Lisa Martinez through a crack in the wall. If we can coordinate our escape attempts, we can cause chaos throughout the ship. Katie, these aliens have been capturing slaves for centuries, Lisa replied. Don't you think they plan for escape attempts? Yes, but they're planning for normal escapes. They don't know what humans are really capable of. Katie had been remembering more of her father's lessons with each passing hour. Simple exercises that had seemed like fun were actually advanced military training. The games they played in the forest were actually combat simulations. Even the way he had taught her to think about problems was designed to create a tactical mind. She wasn't just Jake Walsh's daughter. She was a ghost daughter, trained from birth to be a weapon. Commander Vextar had been getting reports about the strange human girl, and none of them made sense. His database searches had found nothing unusual about Jake Walsh or his shipping company, but his instincts told him something was wrong. Sir, reported his intelligence officer, we've intercepted communications suggesting that several human military vessels have gone dark in the past 48 hours. What does that mean? Ships dropping off all tracking networks, canceling scheduled stops, disappearing from normal space lanes. It could be coincidence, but you don't believe in coincidences, Vextar finished. Neither do I. Double our speed to the Nexus. I want to deliver these prisoners and leave human space as quickly as possible. Sir, what if someone is actually following us? Vextar looked at the monitor showing Katie's cell. The human girl sat calmly on her bunk, apparently reading a book she had somehow acquired. But he could see the alertness in her posture, the way her eyes tracked every sound and movement. She was waiting for something. Then we'll find out just how dangerous humans can be, he said. 3 hours later, the Zephyrian ship dropped out of hyperspace near the Nexus. The massive station hung in space like a metal spider, its arms reaching out to capture approaching vessels. Thousands of lights dotted its surface, and fighter ships buzzed around it like angry insects. Katie felt the change in the ship's engines and knew they had arrived at their destination. She also felt something else, a strange sensation that made her think of her father. He was coming. She didn't know how she knew, but she was absolutely certain that Jake Walsh was somewhere nearby, getting ready to turn the galaxy upside down to save her. In her cell, she began to sing softly, an older song her father had taught her when she was little. The other prisoners listened, taking comfort from her calm voice. They didn't know that the song was actually a code, a way of passing information that Jake had used with his military team years ago. Outside the Nexus, hidden behind a debris field that had once been a destroyed moon, 5 human ships waited in silent running mode. The Shadow Runner led the group, its sensor scanning the massive alien station for weaknesses. Initial scan complete, Amy reported from the pilot's seat. The good news is that their security is designed to stop large-scale attacks, not small infiltration teams. And the bad news? Asked Tony. If we're caught, we'll be facing about 10,000 hostile aliens with nowhere to run. Jake studied the tactical display, his mind automatically calculating angles, timing, and probabilities. Susan, what do you know about Zephyrian psychology? They're pack hunters by nature, Susan replied. Aggressive, territorial, but they panic when their command structure is disrupted. Cut off the head, and the body thrashes around blindly. Perfect. Jake turned to his team. We're not going to sneak in and sneak out. We're going to walk in the front door and dare them to stop us. Lisa shook her head. That's insane, even for you. The ghost has been dead for 16 years, Jake said quietly. Every criminal, slaver, and alien empire in the galaxy thinks humans are just another weak species to be pushed around. It's time to remind them why they use a check under their beds for human monsters. He opened a communication channel to all 5 ships. This is the Ghost, calling any human vessel in range. My daughter has been taken by alien slavers. I'm going to get her back, and I'm going to make sure the galaxy remembers what happens when you threaten a human family. Any ship that wants to join the hunt, follow my lead. Any ship that doesn't, stay out of my way. The response was immediate. 3 more human ships appeared from behind asteroids, their captains recognizing the legendary call sign. Then 5 more. Then a dozen. Jake Walsh had been retired for 16 years, but the Ghost's reputation had never died. Human captains, mercenaries, and military officers who had grown up hearing stories about the legendary warrior were dropping everything to answer his call. Within an hour, over 30 human ships had gathered behind the debris field. It was the largest human fleet assembled in decades, brought together not by government orders or military contracts, but by the simple fact that one of their own needed help. Katie, Jake whispered, looking at the alien station where his daughter was being held. Daddy's coming. The hunt was about to become a war. The Nexus station was a maze of corridors, holding cells, and processing centers where thousands of beings from across the galaxy were bought and sold like cattle. Katie and the other human prisoners from New Terra were herded through the registration area, past aliens of every description, some cowering in fear, others staring with empty eyes that had given up all hope. Keep moving. Bart the Zephyrian guard, prodding Katie with an electric prod. She resisted the urge to break his arm and take his weapon. Not yet. She needed to learn more about this place before she acted. The processing center was run by a massive alien called a Hutt, a slug-like creature with tiny arms and cruel eyes. Katie had read about Hutts in school. They controlled much of the galaxy's illegal trade and had no morals whatsoever. Fresh humans from the Rim colonies, announced Commander Vextar as he presented his captives. Young, healthy, and ready for work. The Hutt examined the prisoners with the eye of someone who had bought and sold thousands of lives. When he reached Katie, he paused. This one is different, the Hutt said in heavily accented English. She moves like a fighter, not a farmer. Katie forced herself to look scared and helpless, but she could tell the alien wasn't fooled. These creatures had been in the slave business for centuries. They knew how to read people. She caused some trouble on my ship, Vextar admitted, but she's been cooperative since then. Put her with the problem cases. The Hutt decided. Buyers will pay extra for a human who needs breaking. Katie was separated from the other New Terra prisoners and taken to a different section of the station. Her new cell was smaller and more heavily guarded, filled with beings who had tried to escape or fight back. She recognized the look in her eyes, the same deadly calm she felt growing inside herself. As the hours passed, Katie began to piece together the station's layout and security systems. But she also started hearing disturbing rumors from other prisoners. Word was spreading to the Nexus that a human fleet had been spotted in the outer system. The guard were nervous, and that made them more dangerous. They say the ghost has returned from the dead, whispered an alien prisoner in the next cell. My people still tell stories about him. The human warrior who could walk through armies and emerge without a scratch. Katie's heart jumped. The ghost. That was what the alien had called her father, wasn't it? But that was impossible. Her father was Jake Walsh, a quiet shipping company owner who grew vegetables in his spare time. Unless everything she thought she knew about her life was a lie. Outside the Nexus, Jake's growing fleet faced a new problem. Word of his return had spread faster than he expected, and not everyone was happy about it. 3 ships approached under a flag of truce, not human vessels, but sleek alien cruisers that Jake recognized immediately. Incoming transmission, Amy reported. It's from the Syndicate. Jake's expression hardened. The Syndicate was a criminal organization that controlled illegal trade across several sectors. Jake had destroyed many of their operations during his active years, making them very rich enemies. The main screen showed a familiar face, Marcus Trent, a human who had turned traitor and now worked for alien crime lords. He looked older than when Jake had last seen him, with cybernetic implants covering half his face. Well, Marcus said with a cold smile. The famous ghost back from his grave. I have to admit, I didn't think my little plan would work so perfectly. Your plan? Jake asked quietly. Oh, yes. Did you really think it was coincidence that Zephyrian raiders attacked your peaceful little colony? I've been searching for you for years, Jake. When I finally tracked you down to New Terra, I decided to draw you out the best way I knew how, by taking something precious from you. The bridge of the Shadow Runner fell silent. Jake's team stared at the screen in shock, realizing that Katie's kidnapping hadn't been random at all. You hired the raiders, Jake said. It wasn't a question. I told them exactly which house to hit, exactly which girl to take. Your daughter is baiting a trap 16 years in the making. Jake's hands clenched into fists, but his voice remained calm. What do you want, Marcus? I want you to suffer the way I suffered after you destroyed my business and killed my friends. I want you to watch your daughter disappear into the slough. Marcus, knowing that you brought this on her by being who you are. And if I surrender myself? Marcus laughed. Then I'll kill you both anyway. At least this way, you get to live with the guilt for a while. The transmission ended, leaving Jake's team in stunned silence. Lisa was the first to speak. Jake, I'm sorry. We all made enemies during the war, but this is what happens when you show mercy to someone who doesn't deserve it, Jake replied. I should have killed Marcus when I had the chance. So what do we do now? Asked Tony. Jake turned to look at the tactical display, showing the Nexus station. Somewhere inside that maze of metal and corruption, his daughter was waiting for rescue. But now he knew the whole thing was a trap designed specifically for him. We do what we always do, he said. We turn the enemy's plan against them. Meanwhile, on the Nexus, Katie was putting together her own plan. She had made contact with other prisoners who still had fight left in them, including a former military officer named Sam Parker and an engineer named Beth Collins who understood the station systems. The power grid has backup systems, but they're not perfect, Beth explained. If we could cause failures in 3 key areas, we could shut down the security systems for about 10 minutes. 10 minutes isn't long enough for a full escape, Sam pointed out. It's not meant to be an escape, Katie said quietly. It's meant to be a signal. The 2 adults stared at her in confusion. My father is coming, Katie continued. I don't know how I know, but I'm certain he's out there somewhere, planning a rescue. When he makes his move, he'll need us to cause as much chaos as possible inside the station. Katie, your father is a colonist, Sam said gently. Even if he wanted to rescue us, what could one civilian do against a place like this? Katie smiled, and for a moment she looked exactly like her father, calm, confident, and absolutely deadly. You'd be surprised what one human can do when someone threatens his family. High above Nexus, Jake's fleet had grown to over 50 ships. Human captains were still arriving from across the sector, answering the call of the legendary ghost. But Jake knew that Marcus was right about one thing. This was a trap. The Syndicate would have reinforcements hiding somewhere nearby, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Long-range sensors are picking up movement, Amy reported. Looks like a full battle fleet, approaching from the far side of the system. Jake studied the readouts. 60 ships, all heavily armed, flying Syndicate colors. Marcus had come prepared for war. "Sir," came a voice from one of the other human ships. "This is Captain Davis of the merchant vessel Far Horizon. My crew's asking if we should withdraw. We sign up to rescue prisoners, not fight a full-scale battle." Jake activated the fleet-wide communication system. "This is the Ghost. I won't lie to you. This is going to be the toughest fight any of us have ever seen. The enemy has more ships, more weapons, and home field advantage. Anyone who wants to leave can go now, no questions asked." He paused, letting that sink in. "But if you stay, you'll be part of something that the galaxy will remember forever. Today we show every alien empire, every slaver, every criminal organization that humans protect their own. Today we remind them that we are not prey, we are predators. And when someone takes our children, we will cross the galaxy to get them back." The communication channel crackled with responses, ship after ship confirming they were staying to fight. Not one human vessel left the fleet. Jake looked at the massive Nexus station, knowing his daughter was somewhere inside, waiting for him. Marcus Trent thought he had set the perfect trap, but he had made one crucial mistake. He had threatened the humans' family. And that was something the galaxy should never do. The first wave of Jake's fleet hit the Nexus like a hurricane. Human ships, outnumbered but never outfought, tore through the alien defense platforms with deadly precision. The station's commanders had prepared for many things, but they hadn't expected humans to attack with such coordinated fury. Inside the Nexus, alarms blared as explosions rocked the massive structure. Katie felt the vibrations through the metal floor of her cell and knew the moment had come. She looked at Sam Parker and Beth Collins, both of whom had become her trusted allies during their imprisonment. "Are you ready?" she asked. "As ready as we can be," Sam replied, gripping the improvised weapons they had fashioned from pieces of their cells. Katie closed her eyes for a moment, letting the training her father had given her flow through her mind. Every lesson, every exercise, every seemingly innocent game had been preparing her for this moment. She wasn't just a 16-year-old girl anymore. She was a ghost daughter, and it was time to prove what that meant. Then let's show these aliens why they should never have taken humans. The power failure happened exactly as Beth had predicted. When the security systems went down, Katie struck with lightning speed. The cell door locks were electronic, and without power they defaulted to their mechanical backups, which Katie could pick using techniques her father had taught her during what she had thought were fun puzzles. Within minutes, dozens of prisoners were free and fighting their way through the station's corridors. But Katie wasn't leading them toward the escape pods. She was heading deeper into the station, toward the command center. "Katie, where you going?" Sam called after her. "To send a message to my father," she replied without slowing down. Outside the station, the battle was turning into exactly the kind of chaos that humans excelled in. Marcus Trent's Syndicate fleet was powerful but predictable, following standard military tactics that Jake had been fighting against for decades. The human ships, meanwhile, moved like a pack of wolves, individual hunters who somehow worked together perfectly without any central coordination. "Shadowrunner, this is Captain Martinez aboard the Steel Hammer," came Lisa's voice over the communication system. "We've cleared a path to Docking Bay 12. You can start your infiltration run." Jake had known from the beginning that the real battle wouldn't be won by his fleet. Ships could destroy the Nexus, but Katie would die along with her captors. The only way to save her was to get inside the station and find her before the whole structure came apart. "Amy, take us in," he ordered. The Shadow Runner peeled away from the main battle and dove toward the Nexus at full speed. Alien fighters tried to intercept them, but Amy Chun was the best pilot in human space. She danced between enemy fire like she was flying through an asteroid field, using the station's own defensive guns against the pursuing fighters. They docked hard, the Shadow Runner's hull scraping against the alien metal as it locked onto an airlock. Jake was already moving before the ship stopped shaking, his weapons ready and his mind focused on one thing: finding his daughter. The corridors of the Nexus were filled with smoke, emergency lighting, and the sound of battle. Jake moved through them like a ghost, silent, deadly, and unstoppable. Alien guards who tried to stop him found themselves facing a human who had spent 20 years learning how to kill efficiently. But Jake wasn't the only human loose in the station. As he fought his way toward the detention levels, he began encountering alien bodies that he hadn't killed. Someone else was cutting a path of destruction through the Nexus, and Jake had a good idea who it was. He found Katie in the station's communication center, surrounded by the bodies of 6 Zephyrian guards. She was working at the main console, her fingers flying over the alien controls as she accessed the station's databases. "Hello, Dad," she said without looking up. Jake stared at his daughter in amazement. The quiet farm girl was gone, replaced by a warrior who moved and fought with deadly grace. She was definitely his daughter, not just in blood, but in spirit. "Are you hurt?" he asked. "Nothing serious." Katie finished what she was doing and turned to face him. "I've downloaded the locations of every human prisoner in the station, plus the records of where others have been sold. We can save a lot more people than just the ones from New Terra." Jake felt a surge of pride mixed with sadness. His daughter had inherited his skills, but she had also inherited the burden that came with them. She would never be able to go back to the simple life of a colonist. "Katie, I'm sorry I never told you the truth about who I am." "I figured it out," she said with a small smile. "The Ghost, right? The legendary human warrior who ended 3 wars and made the galaxy's criminal organizations afraid to leave their home systems. That was a long time ago. I retired when you were born because I wanted you to have a normal life. And I did have a normal life for 16 years. But normal ended when these aliens decided to take me." Katie's expression hardened. Now it's time to make sure they regret that decision. Father and daughter fought side by side through the station's corridors, rescuing prisoners and destroying everything that supported the alien slave trade. They moved together with perfect coordination, as if they had been partners for years instead of minutes. Commander Vextar made his last stand in the station's central hub, surrounded by his remaining guards and determined to kill as many humans as possible before he died. But when Jake and Katie arrived, he realized he was facing something he had never encountered before. 2 humans who fought with the fury of parents protecting their children. The battle was brief and decisive. Vextar was a skilled warrior, but he was fighting 2 members of the Walsh family, and they had 16 years of separation to make up for. "The station is coming apart," Katie said as explosions echoed through the structure. "We need to get everyone to the escape pods." "Already taken care of," Jake replied, activating his communication device. "Amy, this is Ghost. Begin evacuation procedures. We have approximately 200 human prisoners ready for pickup." "Copy that, Ghost. The fleet is standing by." As they led the rescued prisoners toward the docking bays, Katie asked a question that had been bothering her since the fight began. "Dad, what happens now? I can't go back to being a normal teenager after this. And you can't go back to pretending you're just a shipping company owner." Jake was quiet for a moment as he considered the question. Around them, the Nexus station was dying, its slave markets and processing centers destroyed forever. Outside, Marcus Trent's fleet was in full retreat, chased by human ships that had tasted victory and wanted more. "The galaxy knows the Ghost has a daughter now," he said finally. "That makes you a target for every enemy I ever made. But it also means you have a choice I never had." "What choice?" "I became the Ghost because I had to. You can choose to be something better." Katie looked at the rescued prisoners, humans, aliens, and beings from species she didn't even recognize, all of them free because she and her father had refused to accept that slavery was inevitable. "I choose to be your daughter," she said, "and your partner if you'll have me." Jake smiled, the first genuine smile he had felt in weeks. "Welcome to the family business, Katie Walsh." As their ship pulled away from the dying Nexus, Jake activated the fleet communication system one final time. "This is the Ghost, broadcasting to all frequencies. Today we destroyed the Nexus and freed thousands of slaves. But this is just the beginning. Every slaver, every criminal organization, every alien empire that thinks humans are easy prey, you are all on notice. We will find you. We will free your prisoners. And we will make you regret the day you decided to threaten human families." He paused, looking at Katie, who nodded her approval. The ghost is no longer alone. He has an heir, and she's everything you should fear about the next generation of humans. We are no longer hiding. We are no longer running. We are hunting. The transmission ended, but its message would spread across the galaxy within hours. The legend of the ghost had evolved into something new. The legend of the ghost and his daughter, protectors of the innocent and the terror of those who preyed on the weak. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, slavers and criminals began to realize that the galaxy had just become a much more dangerous place for anyone who threatened human families. Katie Walsh was no longer the farm girl from New Terra. She was the daughter of the galaxy's deadliest human, and she was ready to make her own legend.